Welcome to the first. You have a story. If you look back on your life, you've done things for the first time that no one in your family, in your town, in the country has done. This is Dr. Sandi. You have unknowingly paved the way for others without knowing it or even acknowledging it. This is where you tell your story so that those who come after you can walk in your footsteps to build their own firsts. Hey, everybody, this is Dr. Sandi on the first podcast, and today my guest is Nikki Golly, who is the first poop expert that I've ever interviewed. Nikki helps her clients with digestive problems. She's the first in her family to become an entrepreneur, and she picked the business of poop. This New Mexican is a nutritionist who specializes in women's health, and this is one conversation that could save your life. You can reach out to Nikki at NIKKIGOLLY.com, nikkygolly.com. Hey everybody, it's Dr. Sandi. I'm here today with Nikki Golly. Wow, bet you buy Golly. Wow, did you know that song? And Nikki is here to tell us about her first, and so we're going to jump right into it and tell us a little bit about yourself, Nikki, what you do, and how you got to be the first at some things.
Well, I'll start with one of the firsts that I talk about that most people are not comfortable talking about. And it's one of my favorite topics because everybody does it and nobody's talking about it. And it's kind of the elephant in the room.
What's that?
I talk about poop. Talking about digestion, everybody does it, right? Not everybody does it well.
Oh.
And so that is one of the things that I am out on big stages and talking about poop because I was miserable and sick and very uncomfortable for way too many years because nobody asked me the proper questions.
Wow.
So, yeah, I was super sick. I grew up, I had major ear infections. I had major stomach issues. I was sick so often. I could joke that someone could sneeze across an auditorium and I'd get sick. Also, I was on antibiotics so many times. I actually got strep throat so many times that I became allergic to the antibiotics that gave me strep throat.
And at what age was this? Is this throughout your life?
This was more like adolescence. I actually became allergic and started having allergic reactions to the antibiotics around maybe 13, 14, 15, that kind of area that I would, sorry to be gross, but I would vomit every time I took the antibiotics. It was because my body couldn't handle it. And all the while I was pooping like once or twice a week.
Well,
most people have no idea. And so that's kind of why I'm out, like being the first one, like, hey, did you know you're supposed to poop every single day? And if you're not, you're considered constipated.
Yes.
So
the time we usually get introduced to that is with our parents.
Yeah.
That's really when we get introduced to that, because your parents start saying, oh, I can't go to the bathroom. And you're like, what do you mean? And then you have to take them to the doctor and you realize your body slows down and you've got to get everything moving.
Yeah.
It's something we take for granted though, right?
Yeah, it's usually like when you said parents, more of like as you're an adult and these are aging parents, typically is when you notice those kinds of issues. But most people have no idea that it's normal to go to the bathroom every day. I talk to people all day long. And I mean, some people, it's like a shocker that people don't. But there's so many people that are like, they kind of quietly raise their hand like, hey, Nikki, let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Or, wow, my guts are not happy. And I learned, it took me a long time. I actually got a nutrition degree and worked in a supplement store for about 8 years and then got tested and kind of like tested. Granted, I grew up in a smaller town. I think that is a piece of maybe if I was in a big city, I would have doctors that may have asked the right questions, kind of thing. But it took me until after I turned 27 to figure out that I had a food allergy.
And you don't really think about that.
Yeah, no, most people had no idea. I never would have thought about it. And yes, I had done a test and someone was like, did you know there's a really high likelihood, based on everything that I had, this test that I was doing, like there's a really high likelihood that you have a dairy allergy. And I was like, no, no, I can't live without my cottage cheese at night or my
And your
Greek
milk.
yogurt. I was like, this is my life. And
This is
I
like telling a farmer that you're
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can't
right?
drink your
So when I wrapped my head around it, I actually did an elimination diet. Granted, I had a nutrition degree at this point, so it was easy for me to at least know all the different names that dairy could hide under and where it would show up. And I did a kind of a 10-day clean out and did no dairy for 10 days. And it was like the eighth or ninth, 10th day, it was like the heavens opened up. Was like I felt so much better. I was going to the bathroom every day. It was like huge shifts in my life that
yeah.
I never expected. Never expected.
And that's a good recommendation for people to go get tested at some point. I know I'm allergic to seafood, most fish
Mm-hmm.
and seafood. And
That's usually a scary one when you find out. It's like seafood typically is like your throat closes up and you're like,
yes,
oh, geez.
anaphylactic shock, right? But
Yeah.
thanks for my grandmother who took note of that when I was very young.
Ah.
And she had a farm in Jamaica, and I used to spend the summers there. So
Mm-hmm.
I used to go and, you want your cereal, you go get some milk, except their milk is like fresh milk coming right out of the cow.
Yes. Way different. Way different.
It is. But she realized that I would get sick after drinking milk. Maybe an hour, 2 hours later, I would just get milk. And so she never said anything to me. She just switched it to goat's milk because
Oh,
she had
yeah.
goats as well. And so
Yeah.
I didn't realize that I was drinking goat's milk. I'm like, yeah, I drink cereal. Of course I drink cereal. But I had no clue I was drinking it with goat's milk. Then when I come back after the holidays, I would get sick again. I'm like, I don't drink milk. And
Huh.
she's the one who said, well, you do drink milk, but just not cow's milk.
Cow's milk. Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't even know there were other kinds of milk. I think, well, as a kid, you go, like, do chicken give milk? Like, what kind of milk am I supposed to drink? But it's a
Right.
lactose intolerance, and I'm kind of growing out of it. But the seafood one, you know,
Mm.
that
Mm-hmm.
still comes on. But what you didn't say, Nikki, is you get new allergies as you get older.
You don't have to. That's
I
all gut related, gut health related. Because believe it or not, like I said, I had a dairy allergy forever. I do not have a dairy allergy anymore. So, what you can do is when you actually work on healing the gut at a foundational level, that you can get rid of a lot of ailments, but a lot of times as we get older, our gut health deteriorates.
Right.
And that's where a lot of people feel like as you get older that they kind of get old. And I'm like, you don't actually have to do that. We can't stop the world from turning and
Right.
our years adding on, but we don't have to quote unquote get old because it's all a function of how the body works. And you can keep the body working well. And there's little tricks and sometimes more supplementation and things like that as we get older, digestive enzymes. But when we're focusing on healing the gut and really getting the underlying foundational things, it makes a huge difference, which is really exciting.
Yeah. So, for example, I used to love mangoes. I could eat
Uh-huh.
mangoes forever. One day, out of the blue, mangoes stopped loving me.
Oh,
Like, I just couldn't eat mangoes anymore. And so, for the last, I would say, 20 years,
okay.
could not eat a mango.
What was your
And
reaction, if you don't mind me asking?
everything from vomiting to diarrhea, within, as when it goes
Oh
down, it
yeah,
comes
like
out.
immediately.
There's, do not give it to me if I'm at a meeting or like, and this is something I used to eat consistently. Maybe I had too much of it. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
sometimes that's and that's the reason for most people's dairy allergies is overconsumption. And I think that's so your gut, there was something probably a little bit of a miss in your system, and then eating a lot of mangoes would get overconsumption
right.
allergies,
Yeah.
which is definitely common, especially.
I'm trying to reintroduce it though, very small amount. Like
Yeah.
I was making some fruit juice the other day and I put a piece of mango and also in my smoothie, I just cut a piece of mango. I tasted it, but it didn't bother me
Nice.
for that.
Yeah. Because you stayed away from it for long enough, you allowed that reaction to kind of subside within your system.
But
Okay.
unfortunately for the lactose, that didn't happen. So I make smoothies and I gave my husband likes A2 milk
Okay.
and I was just being lazy. There's a little bit left in the bottom and I'm like, I don't have to make it. I could just drink this. It's not much. It won't bother me. Oh my God.
You were wrong. Yeah, it did bother you. Oh man.
So that I don't mess with. But no,
Right.
it's interesting. People never think about what goes in have to come out.
And it's true. Everything does. Everyone will go out and eat together and all this thing, but then no one ever talks about it coming out unless the only times people ever talk about it is if you have a major diarrhea issue because it's pretty urgent. Usually you have to
Right.
leave the conversation.
Gotta
You have
go.
to leave.
Gotta go.
So that's like the only times that it actually comes up because they're like, all right, I gotta go. Bye.
Yeah.
But
So
other than that, yeah.
but we were talking about the first. So you're the first poop specialist that I know of.
There
I
you
mean,
go.
what made
Definitely a
you,
first.
yeah, but what made you hone in on your poop? I mean, there's so many other things around diet and nutrition. What made you really hone in on that expertise?
One, because nobody else is talking about it. And it was such a major thing in my life, like completely changed. That's the reason I got a nutrition degree is to kind of figure out what was wrong with me.
Mm,
And so I think that was really important. And then the other piece is, yes, nutrition is so powerful and so healing that you can heal so many different things. That there's lots of different things as far as digestion, but like I said, it was so paramount in my journey. Plus, I kind of have a fun, cheeky way to bring it up. So instead of it being like a topic that nobody wants to
yeah,
talk about, I could talk about it in kind of a lighthearted, spirited way. So it's not as alienating for a lot of people. So it makes it just kind of taking, I'm going to say, take the edge off of like, hey, let's talk about poop. It's not like,
right.
you need to talk about poop and you need to write this stuff down and like you need to talk to your doctor about this. It's really kind of my personality, I guess. That's
Yeah.
probably been one of the best ways because I can and it resonates with a lot of people and it's really enlightening for a lot of people. And so I think that's important.
How do you share this knowledge that you've gained around your digestive system? How do you share that?
Honestly, in the last year, I've done a lot of speaking. So I kind of do, I want to say lunch and learns that with with a little grain of salt, because most people don't want to eat and talk about what, but organizations and like monthly meetings of organizations and things like that. I've also spoke at quite a few different conferences just to because it involves being human and everyone poops. So I kind of can fit into a lot of different niche things when I talk about people taking care of themselves. Especially I've done a lot of big education seminars and things like that for educators. You have to take care of yourself first before you can help your students or that
Right.
one of a quote that I say a lot is an empty lantern provides no light.
Pretty good.
So typically if you're giving, I love givers because that's kind of my personality. I love that. And that's
Me
why I got
too.
attracted to you and that kind of thing. So
Yes.
really attracting to people that are people that like to give, the people that help others. And typically those people that help others really effectively don't help themselves a lot.
I know it's that caregiving role too. I'm a caregiver and I went to the eye doctor today
Nice.
because I consciously wanted to start taking care of myself again. And that's one of the things that you kept putting off, putting off, putting off. And I realized my eyesight was changing
Mm.
for the better, which is very weird.
That's exciting. For the better, I don't hear that very often.
I've worn glasses since like fourth grade, and all of a sudden I can drive at night.
Oh,
I'm forgetting, I drive around for days without my glasses. I go without wearing them. And then I'm like, what did I do with my glasses? I don't even know where it is anymore. And
wow.
even on computer, I could not read without putting on now I read everything just fine. And I just wanted to go check and say, what is this bizarre thing that's happening?
Yeah.
And it's because I'm a caregiver, right? I just take care of everyone else. But it was bothering me for quite, I hadn't gone since 2020. He told me, you haven't been here since 2020. I'm like, oh my God, that's quite a while. But,
Yeah.
you know, like you said, we have to start taking care of ourselves. And so much of the things that you're talking about, if you're on antibiotics, it's going to affect how
Your
often you
digestive,
go to the bathroom, right? Your
believe it or
digestive
not,
system.
antibiotics affect your digestive system and affect the inner workings of and your microbiome for 4 years.
I didn't know it was that
4
much.
years. It's a long time. It's extensively long.
My husband was sick, and they like, oh, you might have difficulty going to the bathroom because now you're on. And I'm like, really? I thought it would do the opposite.
Yeah. Usually yeah, depending on the drugs or thing, pain drugs and things like that can definitely constipate people. It slows everything way down because it stops the pain signals, but it also stops
Nothing.
other signals
Signals.
within the system. Yeah.
Ah. And so how does your family react to you being the first poop specialist?
My
How
poor
did they
husband,
introduce
yeah,
you?
my poor husband is like, "Ooh," he's coming around. When we first started talking about it, he was like, just don't say it. This is my wife, but yeah, just don't say what you do. Just say nutrition, right?
That's funny.
But he's coming around because I've been able to help so many people. It's so important, and he knows that it's a passion of mine for sure. But yeah, I
Nice.
think I think some people kind of, yeah, don't say what I do all the time. They're just like, she does nutrition. She helps people with health. And I was like, yeah, yes, it's true.
That is true, and you can't deny that is true. So
All right.
what are the negative things about being first to be doing this in your field? Are there any negatives?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I know quite a bit, and my journey was through constipation. I would say the negatives is some some people expect that I know everything, especially when it comes to the other side with its diarrhea. And there's so many causes of diarrhea that it's not always as easy to pinpoint. For
Mm,
me, because it was my journey and I've helped so many people on the constipation side, I got that. I understand it. I know how to fix it, or at least fix it, get some relief right away, and then work on the underlying causes. But diarrhea is a little bit harder of a nut to crack. And I would say that would be the only thing that's kind of a little bit challenging for me, is that everyone expects, or that they'll ask me questions that I don't even know. What the importance of the sinking or floating or the colors. And so I'm like, yes, I've gotten well versed in more and more of those things, but
right.
sometimes I'll get questions and I'm like, I've never even talked about that. I have no idea. I'll get back to you on that.
That's true. I think because we just consider poop like poop. We can either be normal, right? You're regular, or you on both ends of the spectrum. So for someone who has diarrhea, my opposite to stop diarrhea would be to do things to make you more constipated because it's hardening. You consider it as hardening your stool. So
Right.
you probably would you see that as the cause and effect kind of thing.
Or slow
Okay.
things down. Typically, there is a lot of allergies related, especially when it's chronic. People will experience, I'm not talking like you catch a flu and you have diarrhea for a week because your system's not working. I'm talking about the people that are chronic, that it's been
Yeah.
a number of years, they're miserable, those kinds of things. That's my favorite stuff to work with. Even diarrhea, just because a lot of times I can pinpoint where it started or what actually happened. But it's so fascinating to me.
It is.
Because it's again, like, nobody talks about it, and even doctors, believe it or not, I went to doctors and they ask questions like, are you regular? Yeah, I regularly go once a week. Like,
Great.
that's my regular. I think that's an improper question, right? Are you pooping every day? What does your poop look like? Is it hard? Is it soft? Those are questions that doctors don't aren't really asking. And honestly, they don't know. There's more drugs now because of the, I think, catch all of a diagnosis of IBS. You go into the doctor and say, I have gut issues. And they're
Right.
like, great. They diagnose you with IBS,
Correct.
which essentially just means you have gut issues. So it's not really a specific diagnosis. It's like here's a catch-all, so now we can prescribe you a drug that usually causes the opposite. If you're doing something for constipation,
Yeah.
it'll cause more diarrhea, or it causes like the opposite, right? And it goes back and forth, but it doesn't really fix the underlying causes. And that's one of the things that lights me up, was when I get clients that come to me and they've been lost, they've gone to doctors, they've done the drugs, they've gotten tests and everything's normal. That's what I hear probably more often than anything else, is they're like, yeah, I went and the doctor said that all my tests are normal. They're like, but I know that I'm not normal and I don't
Normal.
feel good and I feel miserable and I'm pooping like every 3 days. There's something not right. And it's that aha when they're like, when they start to feel good. Because it's not only, yes, I talk about poop, but it's like, that's really just a side effect, really.
Right.
It's a great side effect, and it's something that is like a eat something, goes through your system, comes out, like you can tell, like, but it's really just a side effect of health. When you start to really dial in your health and feel better, it's like energy goes through the roof, confidence in themselves goes through the roof, confidence in their body goes through the roof. Just, and then it's fun, but I've been working with a lot of business owners, and they make more money because when you feel good, you're actually going to do those activities. You actually trust your body. You can go
Yes.
to that networking meeting. You can make those sales calls. You feel more confident because now you're not thinking about your body at all. You're more present with your clients. You're more present with individuals. So that's really fun, because then people feel better, and then, hey, why not make more money out of it too?
So how do you teach the next generation about this? Because we were talking before, we tend to think of our parents or the generation upwards from
Mhm.
us who are going to have this problem. So how do you start educating the younger people that even their bodies, some of them are, I'm sure, like you as a teen, experience
Yeah.
this is your body and you have to understand your body and will change according to as you go in life. There's no class in school that kind of tells you this. In high school, let's say, you take cooking, you take shop, all these, I took how to fix my car, and
Right?
nobody showed me how to fix my body.
No.
So how do you get the word out to these young people?
That's a great question. And I'd love to figure out more going into schools and having conversations like that. But where I've been working on mostly is working with moms, because moms are the best, because moms affect usually the
Right.
nutritional head of household, right? Most women take care of themselves. If they take care of themselves better, then the kids see that. They see what's happening, the changes in mom, having that conversation. I am always open and honest with all of my clients. And I want you to share this. I want you to share it with your family, with your loved ones, with the people close to you, all the lessons that we learn, that we talk about. Spread that. That's one of my things. None of my information is like proprietary between the client and myself. Like, obviously, I abide by HIPAA rules and stuff like that,
Right.
but like the information, hey, man, I also talk about simple things that make huge differences. Going back to the nutrition, right? I have a nutrition degree. So going back to the things that have stood the test of time forever. So it's not some fad, crazy thing like
Yeah.
diet this or pills or injections or anything like that. It's more like, how much water are you drinking?
I'm bad
That's
at that. I'm bad at
that's like a simple one, right? And most people are like, got me. Especially when you mentioned digestion issues with older people, with your parents, those kinds of things. Typically, it's water. Typically, the thirst signals kind of jumble up, so they get busy doing other things. And a lot of times they were not drinking enough water, and that definitely causes digestion.
You're correct. I just had
Yep.
a whole discussion around this again with
Right?
my husband was at a rehab facility, and that was the issue with constipation, right? But
Yep.
so it's a double-edged sword. If you're older and you can't get to the bathroom as often or as fast, you
Right.
tend not to drink water because it's
Right.
going to make you go, especially in public. If you get caught out in public, then you just can't handle that, right? So I find the older people, they've really thought about it and say, I'm not going to drink a lot of water because I have to go to take the bus or whatever to the dentist appointment. And if I drink water now, it's going to catch me on the bus, right? So they
Mm,
just don't. And it's the
right.
same thing, Larry was laying in bed all the time. And I actually think the nurses didn't want to have to come and pick him up, take him to the bathroom all the time. Like,
Right.
so then you don't get as much water as you should be doing to counteract all the antibiotics that
Right.
are.
No, it's definitely a double-edged sword, and you got to kind of find like that happy medium. But remember that, like I have clients that alarms. They're like, I don't drink water. Like, okay, well,
I
set an
do.
alarm in the afternoon. Like, how much water have you drank today? Like, all right, get on it. And then I always talk about it's different if you're traveling or things like that. And one of the things I always say is people don't drink a lot when they travel. I say the opposite. If you drink a lot when you travel, yes, you make stops, but like make it a like lightning pit stop and go to the bathroom. Because if you do those lightning pit stops, you get out of the car, which makes you way less tired when you get to your destination because you've actually moved your
Mm,
muscles instead of just sitting in that one position the whole time, not
right.
drinking anything. Like, no, pound that water, get out and pee real quick and get back in the car, make it like a lightning round, everyone go to the bathroom, then get back in the car. Like that is so much more beneficial for our body in the long run and even short term.
Yeah, but I do have to say though, I've been one of those that kind of hold it or and don't drink. If I'm going on a long trip, I go between New York and Virginia, and there's
Mm-hmm.
a part where there are no bathrooms on the highway. So you're not getting me to drink anything until I pass that point because
Okay.
it will always catch me. So you kind of strategize like when to drink
Right.
and how much to drink. So that's funny that we all have our own idiosyncrasies
Yeah,
around
right. But you
water.
got to go back to when you're not traveling, like, all right, so if I'm going to dehydrate myself on this day, like I better overhydrate myself a couple days before or a couple days after so you can kind of get your
I
body to
try. Work in progress, Nikki. I
we all are.
really do
We all
try.
are.
I'm one of those alarm setters in the morning. As soon as I try to drink a glass. Lunchtime, I drink a glass. I'm not a big juice person, so I
Good, yeah.
try to do that with the water. And then, before I go to bed, I still drink a glass. But yeah, but
Great.
sometimes I can't get that eight glasses or whatever it
Oh
is.
man.
But thank you. No, this is really helpful. And do you have any other firsts that you could think?
Yeah. Well, I actually am the first one in my family and anyone that I know in my immediate circle to have my own business. Most people are
Where
employees.
are
And I was
you?
like, no.
Do you live?
So I am in New Mexico. Well, I'm kind of southwest. I've been in Arizona, Colorado, and New Mexico.
Oh
So,
my goodness. Because in New York, I guess everybody has some kind of side hustle.
right. I'm
Yes.
not talking about side hustles. I do have quite a few friends that have side
Yeah,
hustles, but
but their
they
main
still
business.
have a main job that they get a paycheck every week and
Yes.
they do that and they're a slave to someone else essentially. And
Yeah.
I did that for a while. I actually that was kind of my journey. I was learning that I had the food allergy. So around 27, I was managing a health food store and they had from store to store and like they'd basically given me raises and taken me to a bigger store and I changed that store and it was like wow, I'm like I even had clients follow me from store to store. This was a health food chain in Phoenix, Arizona. And I came to the point that they moved me one more time, like to this big store. I knew that there was problems with this store. I kind of knew more than they told me because I had been around and they're like, well, actually my manager at the time, she was like, well, I wish you were on board with this, but this is gonna happen anyway. because I told her that I was like, no, this is not really worth my time or energy. You're not going to give me enough money to make this move.
Yes.
No. And she was like, well, it's going to happen anyway. I'm like, uh-huh. Here's my 2 weeks. There
Okay.
you
Good for
go. I was like,
you.
if I can do this for your business, I can do this for my own. And I've been on my own since, and it was definitely some ups and downs for sure.
Sure. Yes,
But
entrepreneurship is something you have to really think about. And
right.
I could see in the rough times, you're like, oh, this is why my mother wants me to have a job. In the good
Right.
times, I don't think I would voluntarily go back to working like in a company. Uh,
Yeah.
I like what I do in terms of entrepreneurship, but I always had that gene because, I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. And yeah, my mom does like the most amazing draperies and bedspreads, and she's a seamstress, or was. That's
Okay.
what she did most of her life, even for money. But she always wanted to have, that steady paycheck. So they're afraid. This is something I'm talking to young girls about, is just being fearless
Yeah.
and following your path, not being stupid. If you see the path isn't working,
Yeah.
then you have to be smart enough to say, okay, I gave it a shot. Let me go find, something else and make this my hobby, right? You don't have to get rid of it, just not making it your main source of income.
Right. Right.
But talk to
Or
young people.
pivot and figure out how it can be, or talk to different ways around it. I think that that's also a valuable. And one of the things that someone told me early on that I wished I heeded sooner, but really is to invest in and find a mentor. Find someone that's done it before. Like
Yeah,
that is so valuable. Oh my God, if I would have done that sooner in my business, I would be way farther than I am now.
I wish you were in New York right now. On the 19th, next Tuesday, on a mentoring forum for young girls
Oh
in high
wow.
school, 11th, mostly 11th and 12th grade. Well, now some schools are begging for their 10th graders to come in. But every year I run this mentoring for enterprising women, and it's bringing girls to non-traditional careers in
Mm,
in STEM or STEAM programs,
awesome.
because they're great at math, and they're not encouraged to go into those fields.
Yeah, I think there's more of that than there ever was before, but it's still man-dominated field being in
Yeah.
the STEM or STEAM organizations or fields. But I think that's really
But there
valuable.
are more girls going into college, for different, uh, I call them untraditional, even though they've been there for thousands of years. They were just for men,
Mhm.
boys. But there are more women going into those fields and graduating with degrees out of those fields and starting their own companies, from construction to engineering to, all these different wonderful careers. They now have more career options open to
Yeah,
them. So, well,
that's so
thank you
exciting.
for doing that and for mentoring. We appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah, just mentors and helping other people, I think is makes the world go round. But yeah, getting those girls to find a mentor, someone that they can follow and they can learn from, it is so valuable. Just being in a community of people that are moving
Yes.
forward, like business coaching and things like that that I've invested in have been so valuable. So
Great.
valuable.
Well, Q, this I've learned a lot. As always, just talking. I learned so much from the people who come on and share their knowledge with us. And where could people find you, Nikki, if they want to reach out?
Yes, definitely. So my name is Nikki Golly. The easiest is Nikki, NIKKIGOLLY.com. That's super easy. And if you go to nikkigolly.com, reach out to me. I actually, so as just kind of a gift for everyone that has made it this far, I have a poop pop quiz on the front page of my website. Definitely take that. Reach out to me. Let me know where you came from. And for the first five, I will happily go over your results with you one on one. Normally I charge 247 for that, But just as kind of a give back and an appreciation, I will happily go over the results, kind of give you some tangible, some actionable steps to get your score higher and get you feeling better.
Thank you, Nikki. I truly
Yeah,
appreciate you.
definitely.
And I'm
Definitely, definitely.
sure I always look out or go to the poop doctor.
Yes, definitely. If you're not pooping every single day, reach out to me because something's going wrong in your system and it does not need to be.
All righty. Have a good day and thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is Dr. Sandi. Thank you so much for sharing your journey on the first, where no two stories are alike, even if the circumstances are similar. Let this discussion serve as inspiration for others to show what's possible, and more importantly, to produce seconds and thirds.